Oglala Sioux Tribe candidacy this afternoon. I'm here with Joann Spotted Bear. Joann, welcome to KILI Radio.
Thank you, Arlo.
And we're going to go ahead and get started with today's interview this afternoon. Tomorrow is October 9th, Tuesday, 2012. And tomorrow, beginning at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., is the Oglala Sioux Tribe tribal elections. And Joann is here running for our tribal chairman's seat. So the format for our tribal chairman's candidacies works like this. You have 5 minutes opening, and we'll go into questions, and 5 minutes closing, all within 60 minutes.
Okay.
We good to go?
We're good.
All right, Joann, go ahead and begin with your
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Madakyapi dagni peshnyo. Tunkashla wopla iwaku. Lemiecha matowia hemiecha. Chunkbe opi oti. Relatives, I'd like to thank the Creator first. My English name is Joann Spotted Bear. My Lakota name is Bear Woman or Spotted Bear, and I come from Wounded Knee. I'd like to thank Arlo and the KILI Radio for allowing me back and allowing me to honor Elaine Two Eagles and Waylon Bicro and family on Tuesday. I'd also like to send out my sympathy to those two families. How many minutes?
That was like 30 seconds.
That was like 30 seconds. Relatives, as we talk here this afternoon, I'd like to express my ideas and the concerns for the Oglala Sioux Lakota people. I did a lot of videos in Pine Ridge, and we do need a lot of work on homes and water and sewer and health problems in our education system. And our children, they deserve the very best, and so does our elders. Sometimes it seems like the minutes, they go by like hours here. But I'm kind of nervous a little bit. And I didn't come back home to start any trouble. I want to say that first. I came back to help. I remember when I was a kid, they used to say, when you grow up, you're going to go to school. And when you go to school, you get your education and you come home and you help our people. And in education, they used to say we're about 15 years behind in the bigger cities. And what I had found out was in Reno, Nevada, when I was there about 5 years ago, half of the north side of Reno, Nevada, a whole half a town went up in less than 5 years. And that was brand new homes, roads, water, stores, banks, you name it, it was already up. And I was very impressed on how fast half of a city went up. And when I came back here, I used to dream about that for our people, and I wanted that for our people. And I didn't have the answers as to how to go about getting this. So what I did is I did 3 years of studying. I started, my first mission was to find out about the country America, where it came from, and how did this land become America. I found out that America was named after Americo Vespucci, who died in 1536. The other one I found out was that the alphabet itself was named after Americo Vespucci, that the alphabet was named in Clar, Africa. What I then found out was that treaties started before 1068 BC, and the first treaty ever written was the 10 Commandments, and for the Lakota Sioux, it was the 7 sacred rites. During my studies, I've also found out that there was there was no bill of sales for this land at all. So there was no one who can prove that this land belonged to them and this land is called America. And then I later on found out through my studies that over 300 million Indians had died in order for this country to grow the way it was. The more I start to find out and the more I was reading, I wanted to stop many a times, and a lot of times I cried. I looked at the pregnancy rate then as for 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and it was an astonishing number. I looked at the STDs and among the Indian people and the Lakota people from all over the state of South Dakota, and that number was very high. I got tired of looking at all these hurt and pain coming to our Indian nation. So I decided to look at Pine Ridge and how many prisoners there was in Pine Ridge. And lo and behold, there was prisoners, name after name for every district here on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation on the internet for the world to see. Next, I took a look at the death in Pine Ridge. So we start looking at the Rapid City Journal and the Lakota Times. And in the Lakota Times and the Rapid City Journal, we've seen 7 to 14 deaths in any given week or any given 2 weeks. And that was really, hard to accept. Began to ask myself, who is killing our people and why do they want our people dead? I felt very bad, so I came home and I wanted to do something, so I studied, and I am currently studying as a law advocate. And on the national level, I'm a private attorney, and on the international level, I'm the director of International Native Indian Programs, and I do work with the Great Teton Treaty Council.
All right, Joann, let's talk about your candidacy. What would you say is your biggest asset? What do you bring to the table? You're campaigning for the Oglala Sioux Tribe chairman seat. What do you say? What is your biggest asset?
My biggest asset that I see for the Oglala Lakota people is, first off, our ancestors used to say, Arlo, that this land is ours, anything 6 inches under and everything above, and that our people should not have to suffer. And when I look at that and know that there is no bill of sales for our land, that even nobody should be fighting for Peshla, the Black Hills, that's the given truth right there. I've heard you talk about that a few times over the radio. So my biggest asset is who's giving us the money, where is it coming from, and where is it going, and why hasn't our tribe changed?
So are you saying that, I'm trying to understand here, your biggest asset is your ability to network? Was that what you're calling it?
Yes, I have on Facebook 5,433 friends, over 100 groups. I have 2 web pages and 2 international radio stations that through networking with friends, working together, we get a message out worldwide. Different embassies around the world do watch my reading and listen to what I have to say.
Uh-huh. And how does that relate to the chairman's seat?
When you ever heard of sovereign and sovereignty? The 2 differences. Do you know the 2 differences?
The definition for sovereign?
Yes.
Sovereignty?
The definition of sovereign. Sovereign, one way of spelling sovereign is S-O-V-R-A-N. It's the supreme authority over your equals. Sovereignty is to practice your supreme authority. Sovereign, Wounded Knee, all alone is sovereign. It's known worldwide, correct?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that's sovereign all by itself because of the 300 men, women, and children that died. They didn't have no weapons or nothing, correct? they were massacred, right? That's what we say, correct?
Why are you waiting for my approval?
Because I want, what I'm trying to get at is, sovereign, you ever heard about the, when they took, area of pine trees and they burnt it down and they expected nothing to grow, and here there was this little bitty seed, and it was like I say, a pine tree or a tree, and that one tree, our pine tree, grew, and then a whole bunch of seeds fell, and then that forest, it came back to life. Do you remember that? Can you picture that?
Joann, the question was,
Okay.
how do you bring your ability to network?
To the Oglala Sioux tribe.
Well, what is it relation to the chairman seat?
Okay, Arlo, I don't want our people to die. Okay, I don't. I will fight for our people as best as I know how, and by doing so, and coming from Wounded Knee, our people never used to drink or do drugs. Matter of fact, they did not even have a weapon in Wounded Knee. And when my grandma was alive in 1973, she cried and she faced the West and she said, one day these children are going to have to fight to stay alive. So today it's drugs, alcohol, suicide, poverty, genocide, Native World Wars, elderly abuse, child abuse, the James Ray Arthur, and the Cobell case. If you put them all together, that spells death for the Lakota Nation. But if we stand together as a nation and we work together as a nation, we can help to save our people. We don't have to die behind what somebody else is doing to our people.
Okay. Well, what do you think about there's quite a bit of people out there that are requesting that the Oglala Sioux Tribe president is educated. What sort of education background do you have?
Well, this is what I'm glad you asked me that, and I'm very happy you asked me that, because what I'm about to say next is not going to be a very good answer, but it is going to be a truthful answer, okay? The housings, a lot of our homes have been standing for 40 years, right? A lot of pipes for water have been there for about 40 years or more. And the health has gone down in Pine Ridge. We talk about diabetes and the suicides and different health issues of different, I mean, just all kinds of health issues, okay? We talk about that. We hear you in Nevada. What I'm getting at on education is no matter how educated a person thinks they are with a PhD or a master's or a science degree, it never changed those 40 homes. Matter of fact, I went to Batesland, and this man, he said his house was sitting there, and he has a crack on the side of his house, and he said he had a rake, and he dropped that rake into the ground, and it went all the way down into the ground. And he was calling for housing to come and fix it, and he never got it fixed. And what I'm wondering is, what kind of degree do you need to have to dig a hole to fix a drainage or a broken pipe or anything like that?
Okay, you you just asked me a question with a question.
Yes, I answered your question, but I am asking you a question.
Well, the question was, what sort of background do you have?
Oh.
Do you have any education that would pertain to the chairman's seat?
I went to college for computer business management. I drove semi across the United States. I have worked at Amazon.com, and I met the 6th richest millionaire in the entire world, Dexter Yeager.
What's his name?
Dexter Yeager.
Dexter Yeager?
Yes, through Quickstar in Ontario, California.
I have no idea who that is, actually, so that's news to me. That's cool.
He wants Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You know who he is? You heard the books, remember? On TV they talk about Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
No, I'm still not following.
Okay, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is Robert Kiyosaki's poor dad is a medical doctor in a hospital, and he makes millions of dollars. His poor dad is an 8th grade dropout multi-millionaire.
Sort of like a Facebook.
Yes,
Gurus with you.
exactly. There you go.
So you're saying there's a lot of educated fools out there.
Yeah.
Well, Robert Kiyosaki once said that college is for suckers.
Yeah?
Yes, and I believe that it isn't. I personally believe that education is good. Like I told you, I studied 3 years for myself, day and night, using a computer, and to get the information that I'm able to share today.
All right. And in all your networking, let's jump right into some questions here.
Okay.
All right. In all your networking, are you familiar with the Bennett County suing IHS?
Yes, I am. We heard that in Nevada because of my cousin. One of my cousins are in that. It's like a cone home. Am I right?
Well, I'll explain here.
Okay.
Bennett County is currently suing IHS for $1.5 million. And what's going on there is, how do we get the treaties, or how do we get the United States government to honor treaty obligations? Because this is something that it pertains to that. If a state county can sue the IHS, which is the government, for $1.5 million, how do we get our treaties involved with this?
Okay, I'm gonna express what I know about treaties. According to the documents that I have sitting in front of me right now, Article 6, Clause 2 states that treaties are supreme law of the land. Okay? In Pine Ridge, we have housing and we have health care. We have the BIA schools, correct? If those are on our lands, those treaties are still alive. And according to our treaties, as indigenous natives of the land claiming sovereignty, because the government failed to live up to what is called onerous fiduciary duty of trustee status, they breached the contract. That means that they did not, like the healthcare, with all of our people being sick, or the alcohol, or the jail, or the housing problems, things like that, black mold. This is called onerous fiduciary duty of trustee status, meaning that that person has an onerous job, whether they like it or not, to go into somebody's house to make sure that that home is in living conditions. By neglecting it and there's black mold in homes, that's the breach of contract of the onerous and the fiduciary of the person in charge of that position. Even water, if the water is contaminated or has any metals in it, I forget what it's called, but Batesland is, they were telling me that Batesland has a water problem. The person in charge of that business, according to the United States government and treaties, in the treaties it says that bad man removed or bad man removed for life. If any Indian does harm to a white man, or any white man or black man does harm to an Indian, they're subject to the American laws. So the American law is a part of our treaties, whether we like it or not. I know a lot of people believe that that's not true, but if you look at Article 1 in the under our treaties, the 1851 treaty and the 1886 treaty, it states that.
All right, so now that we understand how the obligations of the United States government for the Oglala tribe, how do you get them to honor those treaties?
Well, what I have seen and what we have done is we wrote a letter to the Queen of England, different embassies around the world, international court and world court, and we are going to have to stand up as a nation to make a change. One person can never feed a tribe, and one tribe can't feed an entire nation. and it's gonna have to take everybody. What I'm saying here is, as I do my best to stand up for the Oglala Lakota Nation, I would like the Oglala Lakota Nation to stand up all together. As we are standing up, 564 federal recognized tribes will then come together and do as we are doing. In return, the federal government will see that we mean business, and we're not here to pay other people's debts off. We're here for this is our land. We have allowed the federal government and other people to come onto our land and gave them control and respect, and in return, our people have been treated and mistreated.
Okay, well, what exactly is your plan? I mean, what's the game plan on that?
I know a lot of our youth want to have maybe theaters or places they can hang out, and they want jobs. If I was telling a lot of our Lakota Oyate on the different homes I have been in, from Slim Buttes clear to Potato Creek, is I'd like to dig up around the homes, every home, and see how those water pipelines are. And I bet you at 100% that majority of those pipelines are rotted out. And I bet you in majority of those homes, there's black mold. And what we will have to do is not only dig up those pipelines and check those pipelines and go in homes and videotape them homes where the black mold is, but also look at in different areas where we can build newer homes and apartments. And then the older homes, I'd like to see those tore down and rebuilt. And because we need to remodel the whole entire system. It's not just give and take here and there. You know, you can't do that. What you do for one, you do for all. And what I have seen in the money that concerns the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in 40 years, there is no way that our people should have been in this condition at all today.
Okay, while you're talking about housing, the Oglala Sioux Tribe housing issue it's terrible, as you know, and one of the things that I question is, if you were elected president, what is your solution for the housing problem here on the Oglala Sioux Tribe? Because, or for the on the Pine Ridge Reservation, I'm sorry, because FEMA trailers, that's a Band-Aid.
Yes, it is.
What is your plan?
This is another one that people would not like to hear from me, but I'd like to fire everybody in charge and who neglected their onerious fiduciary duty of trustee status. That's like carrying a chanupa. When you carry a chanupa, you're obligated to that chanupa. When you carry a master's degree, a science degree, you now carry the white man's government called onerious fiduciary duty. And when you carry that, you're obligated to the people. And when you deny the people, then you just got through denying that chanupa, right? It's hard. It's hard to carry the chanupa. It's also hard to keep obligations to the people. It's very hard. They're not easy obligations. But when you went to school to get those degrees, you promised to uphold justice in the best way that you seen fit for the people, whether it was through housing or through the tribe or through the jail or through the hospital or being a judge or whatever it was. I mean, those are things that people don't want to hear. But if we're going to make a change, what I see in Arlo's for changes, our college students would listen more better than our ones in office right now would. Our college students would want to come out here and just say, okay, I'll do that, and they'll get it done. And it's really scary. It's scary to even say those kind of words and say that, but when our people are suffering, there's got to be some change somewhere. Somebody has to be willing to do that onerious, that job that no one wants to do. It's like picking up some dookie over here. You don't want to do it, but you have to do it.
So you're saying that you would remove the Oglala Sioux Tribe Housing Authority?
Yes.
What about the Partnership for Housing and Mazashka? There's a ton of entities out there that are working on the housing issue right now. Are Are you talking about removing all programs together?
No, I'm strictly talking about, why do we have housing and then two others on top of that? When housing should have been doing a job right here. Trailers, they're in 1973 or 75, trailers were supposed to be temporary until homes were built. In 2012, there's more trailers than there are homes here. And those trailers, when it gets cold here, it really gets cold, you know, and so I don't find that very funny, and I don't find that very fair. And I really, another thing I don't like is in the bigger cities, they have these stoves and heatings that can save up to 40 to 60% on electricity, whereas here, electric bills and gas bills are anywhere between $200 to $500, in some cases $600 to $800, depending on how old the home is.
So what's your solution? I mean, what's your solution to getting houses? I mean, if you remove certain boards and certain entities, what's your solution to getting housing back to those that need it?
Well, I'm sure Washington is watching and listening today. The FBI told me they read my Facebook page. I know the Oglala Sioux tribe does. 564 federal recognized tribes read my Facebook page. Different embassies of the world, they read my Facebook page. And I'm, like I said, I'm not here to cause trouble, but I'm here to see to it that Washington also helps us to make a change, because our job was never to go to the Shakopee Sioux and beg anybody for money. We're supposed to be a proud entity.
Okay. All right, let's move on over to education.
Okay.
As you know, we have a dropout rate, 70%. It's crazy. Our high school dropout rate, I'm sorry, is at 70%. And then our college dropout is even higher. It's right around 85%. So the high school students, say 100 students go to high school, only 30 of them will graduate. And on top of that, only 5 will actually graduate high school. So how do you answer that? What, as the chairman of the Oglala Sioux tribe, how do you get those children to continue education and after high school pursue a higher education?
My best that I have for the children, Arlo, and to the children, if you're listening, is Lemiecha Matoya Hemiecha. Dagnishni Miasawashni Ashchi. Chantele Danwish the Hecha. Tunkashla Kile Danwish the Hecha. The Creator, He loves all of us, and He'll never leave us out. And none of us are perfect. And even though, even myself included, I dropped out at 12th grade. And I went back to school, and it took me 4 years to get my high school diploma. And I went to college for 2 years. And then I studied on my own for 3 years. I believe in you, and I put my heart and my life into you to want to live. Don't give up. Don't let no one belittle you just because you think you don't have nothing. My mother and father died when I was 9 years old. I understand what it's like to be shot, stabbed, ran over, molested, and disowned, and not know where to go. I was one of those kids that they talk about today. And I want you to know that I love you, and I care about you, and this is why I'm here today running for Oglala Sioux Tribal President. If I can do it, you can do it too. Anybody can do it. But you have to not want to drink and do drugs, and when you fall down, dust yourself off and get back up. The most important is never forget your traditional ways. At least learn one song, whether it be a peyote song or a Sundance song or a song that you can sing to Creator. We all have a hard time, even us adults, we cry. So I want you to know you're not alone. That's how I feel about education. Very strong about it. I believe our children need to know that we do love them and we do care.
Okay. All right. Well, the only reason why I asked on education end is because it's, a lot of people here around the reservation think that education is key to getting out of all the social negatives across the reservation. And do you feel the same way, or do you feel like that there's another step in there?
No, I feel there's another step in there. When